Hi everyone, welcome to Dave's Bonsai. On today's episode, my Japanese maple is going to get a repot. So this is a tree I've had since I think 2018. I got it at one of the auctions through the Minnesota Bonsai Society from a long-standing member. I believe it's a Tim Mathwig tree. I've interviewed him on Up North Bonsai, and he's one of my original bonsai member guys who kind of took me under his wing. Tim Mathwig saw my enthusiasm in those early meetings, and the very first one I went to, he gave me something he won with the monthly meeting raffle that we have every meeting. He gave me what he won, so I still have that. It's kind of ductwork putty that works really good as a cut paste if you need that. So he had some, he gave it to me. We've been friends ever since. I have a tree here that's just starting to want to wake up. We've got some really tiny buds here. There's one right here at the chopstick, right about here. I don't know if I can zoom up on that and get that. And then we have just some right up here, little tiny buds that are starting to wake up, so that's good. We know this tree wants to wake up. Peter T is part of our fundamentals group. I should say we're a part of the Peter T fundamentals group, and he's coming to town this weekend for group 1, and then next weekend, April 1st, after my spring break comes to an end, I get to spend a couple of days with Peter T and learn about all his incredible knowledge of bonsai for the 3rd year now. This is year number 3. And last year when he looked at this tree, he said, Dave, you got to get out of this thin pot. It's just a little bit too narrow. He wants more room for roots to grow out, and so we're going to put it in a bigger pot today. We cut it back. We chopped this one back down to here. We've got two split here, so we got growth on this, growth on here. We're letting this go out, and that's going to help with the healing. We've got a bit of a wound there. So if we use that as the front, the wound goes away for now. We'll let that heal over. We might have to cut back that and scar it a little bit. We got a big cut back here, and we got these branches here. We just wired a little bit in the fall to get these set in a little bit better position, and hopefully they'll shoot out and grow. So we're not going to do anything with the branches today. This is strictly Peter T said, hey Dave, I'd recommend repotting it. We're going to take a look at the roots today, and we're going to get this thing in a pot. First things first, we're going to go ahead and get this out of the pot. I did not wire this one in. I have mentioned on my channel before that I have wired less and less of my trees into my pots. If I wire them in a decent way, I'm not too worried about scarring the roots because I'm not going to put a wire over the roots that will be exposed. So if I have enough fine feeder roots, if I have enough, you know, there where I feel I can attach with a wire and I feel it's needed, I'm going to go ahead and do that. But I'm just doing less and less. And that's mainly with my tropical trees. My deciduous and conifers, I'm still doing a little bit more wiring, but this one I did not wire. This should pop right out of here. And there it did. So no wire, came out nice. This had no fear of knocking it over in the wind. And there we have some roots showing up down there. A little bit of that fine, super dusty stuff from the soil. That's one thing that I wanted to make sure I do a little better job this year, is making sure that I get some of that fine dust out of the soil when I'm putting it in here. It does seem to settle towards the bottom, and then the drainage might not be as good. But you're always looking for really good drainage on our bonsai trees. We want to make sure that there's a good balance of oxygen and water. So if it's too watery, some trees are going to suffer. If it's too airy, the roots are going to die off. So if you look at this root system now, you can see there's some drying out stuff on the top. So that's why we needed to cover up some of these and bring the soil up just a little bit here so we can see a nice nabari here. But these exposed roots aren't maybe necessarily what I'm going to be going for right now on this tree. Maybe a few years from now, a repot or two later, we're going to be able to see some of those roots come a little bit higher, a little bit thicker, and after the nabari slows up a little bit. We're going to let these roots shoot out a little bit more. It's a really nice start to these root system. I got a lot of roots here, it looks like. Really in good shape. So let's continue getting these bits of the old soil out of here. And we will start looking at our 2 pot options for today. What's nice about this tree and this particular repot is I'm going to worry nothing about the top. I don't have to worry about any of the branch structure. All of the roots that I have in here are going to certainly support what I have up top. This is Japanese maple, so this is a tree that we can bare root. We can rinse these roots out and get it all nice and clean and freshened up. You can bare root these Japanese maples and you're going to be just fine. So these are fairly dense. They haven't really woken up for the year yet, so that's good. A good time to repot as these roots begin that journey from winter into the spring here, as we are starting to get longer days, warmer temps. We're about 40 degrees outside right now. We're supposed to push into the 40s today, Fahrenheit. And so, you know, not quite warm enough for me to work outside, so that's why I'm in my plant room. But we want to really sort out the roots today. I want to make sure that I make some good decisions on the roots, laying the groundwork for future growth and future 360-degree radial root patterns that are going to be really hopefully good for this tree, beneficial for this tree, so we get a good balance of growth. And again, our balance of growth is going to be a good balance of air and oxygen, or oxygen and water rather. And so we can have really good root growth. Not too much oxygen where the roots die, and not too much water where the roots say, "What are you doing to me?" So we still have some parts in here. We're going to rinse it off in a little bit. This has been in my cold frame. I keep the Japanese maples in the cold frame and never goes below 35 typically. You can see some of my past shows and when I've talked about my cold frames, the cabin one, the garage one, and we keep those between 35 and 40 all year long. And they are wanting to slowly wake up here now. Some things are starting to show some promise. And we are now in spring, officially, so, but this year Minnesota's been a tough one. So here we have our basic structure for the tree, and let's remind you what pot it was in, okay? So we had it in this pot, and you can see I can trim it now, put it back in the same pot, and I'd probably be okay. Peter T suggested I put it into a bigger pot. Again, we want a little bit more room for growth, a little bit more soil up on top of here so we don't have a big mound. So I have 2 pots to choose from. So I have this round pot that is a little bit deeper, not a ton deeper, but a little bit. We're maybe talking about, let me see, we're talking about from this deep on the other pot. This deep, you know, maybe 2 inches, maybe a ½ an inch to 3/4 of an inch deeper of a pot. It's not the best color in the world for this Japanese maple, although of course when it has all its greens and maybe reds, the brown is okay. It's a nice round pot. The way this Nabari is, it fits pretty nice in there. So that's one possibility. Got some homemade patina on there, bumps. Then I've got this nice big blue pot that fits the tree pretty well, and it gives it more of that room to put some soil in there and bury some of those surface roots, put it right about here, and it has plenty of room to grow in here. So this one's definitely, we got down about another, probably twice as deep as the other one at least. We got a lot more room for it to go. I'm going to go with the blue because it's a maple. It's going to have some nice greens and reds. This one has a little bit of a speckled feel to it, so I really like it. So we're going to go with this one. We have the drainage screens all in there. But before we put it in there, let's go ahead and get close on the roots and talk about getting this thing where it needs to be with roots. Got my tools, I've got my chopstick. We're going to go ahead and see what we're going to do with this root system. So here is the view from what I thought was the front of this tree, and I think it still is. We got a little bit of a gnarly growth here. We got some bulging going in there. We're going to clean that up today, hopefully. And then we've got some roots going over here. These two kind of bow out and go back together here, so maybe we can kind of separate those a little bit. I'm not sure. We've got this one coming out here, down here. It splits. There's a little bit of growth right there. The one on the back is kind of a weird one. That shoots off and goes to a really weird angle. It doesn't come straight out. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to chop that one off right away. We want something to come more flowing out of that, straight out from the tree if we can. We got rid of some roots there, not too drastic there. And we can hope that we can get some more, maybe some roots forming there. I see a really nice root down there below, but it's down there. That would have to get thicker and make its way up here a little bit. So I think that would be hard to do, and that might take a little more time, but hopefully we get some more roots up here, and here. So we've got a root right there. We've got a root right there. If we get a couple more right there growing off, we can get a nice rounded radial pattern. So that's the back one we took off. So now we're just going to kind of see what we can peel away here. And I don't need all of this length, so I certainly can take some of these roots down right away and we can make this a little bit shorter around the whole tree. So I'm going to do that first. Just going to get a little bit of a trim of some of these longer feeder roots because they're going to be cut off anyway. I want to make sure that I can get at this tree and see what I want to see a little bit easier. It'll help the tool get down there a little bit more. Okay, so just that little bit. So again, we're doing nothing to the top of this tree. This is all root work. We want to make sure that this is going to be spread out real nice and encourage the right growth and balance it out. Let's put it in the water real quick and we'll get it right back on the table. So there we have some washed roots. And again, we've got some pine bark in here from old soil. We've got a lot of tangled up roots in here. We're going to try to clean this up a little bit and promote some division of these roots and keep working on getting them smaller and finer, but having the roots at the base kind of get a little bit thicker. My next question is these two roots out here. This does split out a little bit here. We got these two trying to crisscross here. Now what I might be able to do is put a little rock in there maybe, or maybe I can put some soil in there to make sure that that's going to stay a little bit more apart. So just us separating it there, right there, is really helpful already. We'll get some of these spaced out a little bit better. But we have all kinds of stuff like this right here. This guy right here is crossing over. Got a nice, this is a nice flowing root right here, but a lot of stuff below it. This one's going up right now. I'm going to take that one off. There we go. And so we can continue that root down. See if it's going to go down more. Still got some soil in these crevices here. Well, we have a nice root right here, and this root does continue down. And I'd rather have it go down than it was starting to go up there. Then this one is going to go up too unless we can tuck it away somewhere. So we have to see where these roots are going to be going here. So we have this knob section here. I want to maybe work on that next and see how much that's going to cut away before I cut away other areas of this root structure here. I don't know. So underneath here we got some rocks. We've got a root right there. It goes pretty down from this section. We've got a root right here that comes from the top, right there. It's not really doing much. We can leave that root maybe for when we cut this off, and I'm not sure what this is going to do here, but we're going to go for it. Yeah, that root's just going to go burl. And this will probably be right below the surface of the soil now with our deeper pot. So as I back up a little bit, we got this nice root right here, but there's another root, I think, under, unless that's a rock. There's a root right here, and there's even looks like a root right there. They're just kind of tangling up with each other. That was a rock. I don't like this root. It looks like this tree has grown right over some rocks. Look at that. That means it's probably been in this pot for a couple of years, 2 to 3 years. So a slow process. I'm trying to salvage. That root just came off, so now I can just go ahead and go to town. We can maybe get this root structure back closer to where we want it. So the question I have for myself right now is I've got a root plane down here and a root plane up here with this root right here, this big root. That's a root plane, and down here there's more roots, and then down here there's another big one down here, I think. I can cut some of the bottom of these roots off now. Always looking for as flat as possible, reaching out towards the sides of our pots. So as you can see here, we got a lot of crisscrossing roots. We got this one on top, there's this one on top, there's a couple down below. I just have the sneaky suspicion I want to cut those bottom ones down below. We got this deep crevice in here that might go all the way through, and I think it does. going to happen there. We still have some cleanup to do on this side. So there, this root can now lay down there a little bit more evenly. So if you remember how gnarly that root was before, now it's all facing down right here, and we can maybe get some more roots growing in here. But we have, again, this kind of a bottom of a root plane down here. That we just might be cutting off, so we can tell that to shoot out some new roots out in the top area. We have a root here that shoots down way down below in a really weird spot. We're going to cut that one off. I got this curly root down here with a nice root right there. Let's actually get this underneath root out of here. That thick one isn't going to do us a whole lot of good. Look at that soil in there. So we've got a really interesting root structure on this one. It does go a little bit all over the place. And it looks pretty solid over in this side, but then we got this crater of a hole here. We got this crater back here, and here's another kind of a bulgy area that's growing. And again, we can hope for some new roots off of that area. So we still have some roots kind of mostly around. We got some weaker spots over here. We're going to hope for some new growth on this side. There's a look a little bit at the underside there. There seems to be a bit of the root curves down and goes right here. If I could cut that off right there and I don't know if I want those other roots growing there or not though. I want to get rid of some of these big old roots. I don't know there we go. And a big root that was just hugging the bottom of this thing. And then I can maybe cut this one off. I'm not sure which tool I'm going to be able to get in there with. Get a little bit more of it off there. So there's a big root that's just kind of at the bottom. Let's cut that off. So there it is. This one curves down. It's going back on the inside of itself. And I'm just trying to see if I can get a tool in there to get that where it needs to be, which is off of this root structure, I think. There we go, a big root there. There we go. That got in there a little bit closer and got that much out. Yeah, and then we have that root in there that's growing in the bottom and it's growing straight down. So we've cleared this out right there. That was all one big gnarly mess right there. So now I think I'm going to go ahead and clean this root off a little bit higher. I think this will be the back of the tree. I don't want a lot of roots growing underneath and back under the tree, so I'm going to cut off the remaining roots on that one. And keep it angled out. We want this to grow, out there to grow, but we don't want any of this internal stuff to grow back in towards the tree. There we go. There we got that chunk off right there. There we go. We lost a few roots in that process, but I'm okay with that right there. This may be a result of me not being able to understand earlier in my bonsai world that some of these roots should have been cleaned out a little bit sooner to get some of that from doing that. And so we have this root there, root here, root here. This is really thick. Nothing back there anymore, but again, perhaps we can nibble away at this and this will start to grow some new roots. Now we hope this will just grow with some sphagnum moss down here, some new roots. Got a root at the bottom here. I'm going to take that off. And again, now this is all the inside roots from the other side. So I just want to make sure that we don't have a thick root structure over here. Yeah, see, there we go. There's some more soil right there that we just broke up. Yeah, so these roots, this hasn't been repotted for 2-3 years. These roots were going right over that rock structure. So now we have that flat part that's not getting roots. We can really lay this flat and hope these roots grow around now. So here we go. Got a lot more roots over here. This is the part that we're suffering on right now, right? But this has a lot of roots on this big root here. There's a root right here that's pretty thick and a root right here. I don't want to make this any thinner at the moment. We'll see how this one does. And this one might just come off someday, I'm not sure. But if it fills up that little gap and makes a nice bulge here with a root, that could be kind of okay. These two can thicken up out here. And then we got one back here that hopefully can keep getting thicker. And hopefully we get some new one here with some sphagnum moss. So I think we're going to leave it there. I'm going to wash it off one more time. Let's get this in a pot now and hope it does really good in the spring. Now, when you bring back this brown pot, now you can see how much room there is to grow. And that's not a bad pot. But it isn't much thicker than what I had before. So I'm going to go with this one. Now, this one might be a tad big, but it's a little bigger. Got a nice mound of soil right there. And right about there. Now, I mentioned earlier I don't wire my trees in very much. If I were to wire this one in now, I would have a lot of wire over roots that I care about. And so I'm not going to wire this in. We're going to hold it down with some rocks and let this thing start to take shape. So we're going to go ahead and fill it in with some more soil. So these are my medium-sized Akadama, lava, and pumice. I just talked to my friend Steve on the phone today, and he was talking about how he was reading an article and listening to Ryan Neal, and Ryan Neal uses 100% Akadama. As I've mentioned on this station before, Akadama can be very expensive, and you know, until we have some nicer trees that I'm feeling are like where they want to be for getting even close to refinement, then I'll maybe start potting some of those trees into 100% Akadama. But people are steering away from lava rock. I've even heard some examples of people just don't like even using tools around their lava rocks. Like I was just using my tools to get rid of some of that soil and roots on this very tree. You were hearing maybe some crispy, sharp gritting sounds, and that's my tool, you know, cutting through some soil. And of course the lava rock is a little bit more coarse and a little bit more sharp and edgy and the more solid of the three soil types. But that's what I use for most of my trees. The Akadama, the pumice, and the lava rock. And so I've got that in here in a nice level right now. The tree's sitting okay. I might have put this too much in the center. I tried not to, but look at that. It almost looks like the center. We've got this nice nabari on this tree. And if you can look at this tree all the way around, it has a decent nabari. We got it on the front there, you can see. There's some going down on the side there. And then there's that back side where we don't have much roots right now. We're going to put some soil here. I'm going to put a little bit of my small mixture with some crushed up sphagnum moss, so we can encourage a little bit more moisture there, and maybe some roots will shoot there a little bit more. If we have smaller size soil, it's going to stay wet longer than this medium stuff, and so that'll help. But then also that sphagnum moss, a little bit of organic material in there that's going to break down, but also hold some moisture. So let me get my sphagnum moss and my small size soil, and then we'll finish this up, and maybe I'll scoot this over one way or the other just a little bit as we do that. I have my biggest sifter size on my sifter. We're going to take some sphagnum moss, and we're going to go ahead and get this into a little bit smaller pieces that we can blend in with some soil. I got my biggest size because it doesn't have to be the real itty bitty small stuff, but we'll see what we can get from this. So I've got some superfine sphagnum moss that we just got all nice and small, and I've got some of my small bonsai soil here. So I'm going to put all of this sphagnum moss right here with my bonsai soil, and we're going to give this a little bit of a drink of water, and we're going to put this on the top of our new potted tree. So it's almost like a little mini muck, but instead of using the leftover powder from this, I'm using my small size. And if we just go ahead and we take some of these bigs off right there by the crevice where this tree meets the soil, where we don't have any roots right now, we're going to go ahead and we're going to put in this sphagnum moss with some small soil, just like that. And that'll keep this side of the tree a little bit more moist. It won't dry out as fast, and we might be able to get some nice root growth in there. So a little more of the soil now on top, the small, to keep that little moisture right there. Hold the tree in nice as well. And then one more final dressing of the mediums, really nice, about a 1/4 inch below the pot lip. We can still see some of the nebari of this tree. And there we go. We'll give our new repotted maple tree a really good water in here, get rid of some of those powdery residue from the soil, get through into this little plastic tray down here. Here we have the next spring repot done. We've got the Japanese maple that we're not doing anything from the top. We got this runner to help heal this section down in here. We got these 2 wired, so they're going to grow more out this way. We've got some new buds that have just started to open up, and now we really went and we annihilated most of those roots, right? We got rid of all of the entanglements. We carved away at some of those bulges, and now it's tucked under the soil here. We've got some sphagnum moss on the backside here to hopefully promote some more growth this way. And all this front stuff will be nice and continue to grow that way, I believe. It's a nice little nebari here. I didn't move it right or left, so I'm just slightly off. But what's nice about it is as the tree is actually off center, it's the base that's in the middle. If I would have gone over a little bit more, the tree would have been in the middle. So we have a little bit to this side with this filling up that little bit of negative space. Or am I just wishing and hoping? That's going to wrap up another one. We got so many repots to do. I can't wait to do the Trident Maple. That's going to be at the Peter T workshop. I'm going to work on that one when he's not right with me, because I need to get that one. I want to see the roots after 2 years of growth, after we have that one in a stick. That one's going to be fun to show you all. In the meantime, hey, take care of you, okay? Take care of your bonsai, and we'll catch you very soon.